So joining me now is our Pentagon correspondent, Courtney Kube, who's been in Niger, and Mvemba Phezo Dizolele. He's the director of the Africa program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and he's going to give us a lot more context about U.S. strategy there. But I want to start with you, Courtney. I'm glad you're there for reporting purposes. We can't wait to have you home, and I know you can't wait to get home. What's the situation? What's the latest that you're able to ascertain on the ground?
So it's really hard to tell. I mean, everything from who's actually in charge here. We saw this video last night that you mentioned that included a bunch of different military leaders here. And it was a cross-section of people from the National Guard, the Army, even the Special Operations Forces, and even someone from the Presidential Guard, who are the initial group who took the president into custody or detention yesterday at the presidential palace. But it's still not clear who's actually in charge here. And I will say the curfew has just gone into effect here. It does seem tonight that it's that more people are abiding by it than what we saw even just last night. That's what this group announced: a curfew nationwide, a nationwide ground stop of all air traffic, civilian and military aircraft. That's all aircraft. And they closed the borders for at least a week or so, but it's not really clear if that even could be extended. So today here in the Capitol, what we know is that unlike the protests yesterday, which were really focused around the presidential palace area and seemed to be people who were protesting the president's detention, today it's the protests first of all, were much bigger. They were around the National Assembly, which is not too far from there, but not in the direct area of the palace area. And they seemed to be protesting against the democratically elected president and in favor of this ruling military group. And they were a lot more fired up. They set a lot of cars on fire. There was smoke in the air here today for some time. And many of them were unfurling Russian flags. It's not really clear why that is. We've spoken with officials here for several days now. There's no indication that Wagner is behind this at this point. But, you know, we also know that Vladimir Putin held this Russia-Africa summit today, and one of the things they talked about was whether Russia would be able to somehow help to restore calm here. I will say, you know, the streets here right now have quieted down, probably because of the curfew, but there's no sense of any kind of real uprising except for over where the protests have been.
Courtney, do you have a sense of our military presence? Does it disappear if it appears President Bazoum is not going to retain power?
So this is the big question. If we start hearing the U.S. talk about this as a coup or a military coup, that triggers this U.S. law that will immediately force them to stop providing most of the aid. Now, a lot of that will include the U.S. military training mission. I mean, that's why we're here, Chuck. We came to see how the U.S. military is working with the Nigerian military to fight this growing presence of terror networks, not just in Niger here, but sort of in this whole West Africa, including coastal West Africa area. And you mentioned Niger as a linchpin. The reason for that is a lot of the two main groups they really converge on this area here. It's an ISIS affiliate, an Al-Qaeda affiliate. They're converging on this area. The Nigerian military has been a good partner to the U.S. in trying to combat that terror network. The concern here is if this is a military coup, if the president, democratically elected president, is actually ousted, a lot of that aid and a lot of this military presence here is going to end by law.
Right. All right, Courtney. Well, I hope we get you out quicker than a week there, if that's the latest situation. But please stay safe, and thank you for that reporting. Let me see if we can get more context here with my expert guest here, Mr. Dizolele. Let me start with that disturbing report that protesters today supporting the coup were unfurling Russian flags. Does that surprise you?
Hi, Chuck. It's a pleasure to join you today. It doesn't surprise me. In all these protests we've been seeing across the continent, there's always somebody unfurling a Russian flag and so on. And it's very hard to know what to make of it. There are people in these countries who read everything that we read, have a certain nostalgia for Russia, especially in countries, bordering countries where the Wagner Group is present. Sometimes they get a sense that the Wagner Group is doing something good for those countries. We saw this in Burkina Faso, but I'll not read too much into it at this point. I mean, people can wave any flag they want, to send all kinds of messages. At this point, I'll not read much into it.
What's your sense of what the military's involvement here? Because it's interesting. The U.S. has a good relationship with the Nigerian military. But if their leaders are involved in this coup, this sort of, it's almost as if the U.S. that's not a comfortable place for the U.S. to be. It looks like we're helping train the people who helped do the coup here. What's your understanding of the situation?
It's always challenging for the United States because in the U.S. there are so many laws that will trigger reaction to this kind of things. And this is what we see Secretary of State Antony Blinken struggling to define this as a coup. He calls it as an attempt to take power by force and so on. I think in the case of Niger, Niger is so important. It's one of those countries that are still standing in the region, trying to cling into democracy. But it's also very important because of the location. We always talk about location. This is equally important when you're fighting terrorism. Niger borders Chad, it borders Libya, it borders Algeria, it borders Burkina Faso, it borders Mali.
It's a tough neighborhood.
All of them are tough country going through a lot of tough time. So the U.S. cannot really afford to leave Niger, regardless of the outcome of this event now. I think the U.S. will continue to find a way to work with the Nigerian army. But I think it's also important that we understand that even when we talk about democracy, that's not enough. Mali used to be a democracy. I think the United States, that is, in the West, we invest so much on the security front. So the security side of the ledger gets so much money, so much attention. We don't do the same in building democracy, democratic institutions. We don't do the same in putting money in the social welfare of the populations. So there's a major gap. I've always said, if a country like Niger, with its democracy and democratic experience, or a country like Mali, when it was a democracy, were in Eastern Europe, they would have received a lot of support.
Right.
That does not happen when it comes to Africa. We talk one thing, we work a different thing. No. And that is problematic.
The Eastern European example is a terrific one. The amount of non-military aid that we would send over versus what is there. Let me ask you this. What is your sense of the population in Niger? Are they unhappy with their leaders? Is it possible they are supporting this coup?
Populations in Niger, populations in the entire band swath that we call the Sahel, are very unhappy with the political establishment at large. Not because they don't like democracy or anything, or not like they have a personal beef against these leaders, but the system is not delivering. People need education, people need jobs, and that is not there. Let's look at the case of Niger. Niger is the world's 7th largest producer of uranium. Very important ore, very important material. But they don't get the revenue that they deserve to survive on a daily basis. That is problematic. Niger has one of the highest fertility rates in the world. They still do not get the revenue they need for the few resources that have. Very important resources. France has been a colonial power there. France gets a lot of the uranium from Niger, but they don't pay the equivalent of what Niger expects. That is also a serious gap that is causing a lot of these challenges.
Really glad to have you on, Mr. Dizolele. I really appreciate it. I think we don't cover this enough, and I'm thankful we had somebody there on the ground to bring the story, surface it better, and you've given it some context that's desperately needed. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.